SC time now is 6:38. This summer will mark 80 years since the D-Day landings. That's when Allied troops stormed the beaches of northern France in what would become a pivotal moment of the Second World War.
Now, ahead of that anniversary, handmade silhouettes of nearly 1,500 servicemen have been installed at the British Normandy Memorial, overlooking one of those beaches.
Let's go to our reporter, John Maguire, who's there for us this morning. Very good morning to you, John. And as many people will know from being there, that is a very dramatic location at the best of times and such an important place. And now, this installation, these statues have arrived.
Yeah, Charlie, they've been installing them for the last couple of weeks. They've had to drill 3,000 holes into what is, I must say, quite stony ground. They worked really, really hard, but the installation is pretty much complete. You'll be familiar, I hope, with the British Normandy Memorial, open now for a few years, of course, through Harry Billinge, the late, great Harry Billinge, who raised so much money for it. You'll remember him coming here a few years ago. It's an extraordinary place, as you say, Charlie, when you walk among the pillars, when you look up to the walls and see the names of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in the battle for Normandy. Looks over onto Gold Beach, one of the British beaches, that huge stretch of Normandy coastline there. And now, looking down onto the beach, looking at each other are soldiers, sailors, airmen, 1,500 of them, representing the number who died on the first day, who died on D-Day. They make an extraordinary sight, a striking sight. Just over the last couple of days, while they've been installing them, visitors here have been telling us how moved they've been. It's been a labour of love for the man who created them. It's been a long time in the making as well, but they're here. They make an incredible sight, as I say, and this has been the reaction so far.
Standing fast and standing tall, the giants are now on guard above Gold Beach. 80 years ago, the men they represent stormed these sands and began the Allied invasion to wrest northern France from Nazi occupation. The Standing with Giants installation at the British Normandy Memorial has been created by Dan Barton. His vision is now manifest.
Why has it meant so much to you? I mean, because it has been a labour of love, you know, you put so much at stake. Why?
Really because of the reaction of people. You know, I put the first installation on above the hill on the M40 and people came and so many of them cried in my arms, and that, I can't even begin to tell you what that experience feels like. It's such a powerful thing, a life-changing thing. I really sort of realised at that point that I'd accidentally stumbled into something incredibly special. I'm so grateful to the British Normandy Memorial because it was a real leap of faith. You know, what if I'd let them down? You know, what if I didn't come up with what I said I was going to come up with? I didn't let them down. I'd never let anyone down. But, you know, that was a leap of faith, and I'm so grateful to them. I really am.
Well, mate. Nice one.
Mervyn Kirsch landed on Gold Beach 4 days after D-Day. He was just 19 years old, and it was the first time he'd left the UK. He has, though, been a frequent visitor to Normandy in recent years and feels compelled to return as long as he's able. Today, he's seeing the giants in situ for the first time.
They represent giants. It's a different generation. I don't think people think the same as we did then. Perhaps out of desperation in those days. It was important. We recovered from the attacks of the Germans, and now we were taking the war to them. And I think that, well, for me anyway, it was very important. And they represent that.
The project, 4 years in the making, features 1,475 silhouettes, one for each man killed on June the 6th, 1944. All created and installed by more than 1,000 volunteers.
What have you got here?
So this forest is full of the French silhouettes,
including Natalie Taylor, an apprentice with BAE Systems, who says it's a privilege to help out.
I think it should be important to everyone. Obviously, like, you don't want stuff like this to happen ever again. Yeah, it's really important to just remember what they've done for us, because we wouldn't be in the position that we're in today if they didn't fight for us. So I think it's really important to be aware of that.
On the walls and pillars of the memorial here at Ver-sur-Mer are the names of the 22,442 people under British command who died during the Battle for Normandy. They include 2 women, both nurses, Dorothy Field, known as Anita, and Molly Evershed. They died when their hospital ship was hit, but not before making sure 75 injured men were taken off the ship safely. Their selfless heroism now commemorated in steel. The memorial honours not just the military and the merchant navy, but also the French civilians who died. The figures include men, women and children from the occupied population.
It's great. It's amazing. It's such a great idea, yeah, and it's beautiful.
Mathilde Legopil is a tour guide from the nearby town of Aramanche. She says many civilians in occupied France played a part in the success of the Allied invasion, even in small yet significant ways.
One boy was 15, I think, went to take some samples of the sand, and and that was sent back to England. That boy just didn't know what he was doing. He was just taking a bit of sample. It was sent, and that was very important because they knew what to expect, what kind of sand it was, and for the Mulberry Harbours.
Commemoration takes many different forms and has many different meanings. Whether it's a name carved in stone or a silhouette standing with head bowed, the sacrifice made by many thousands on this coastline and beyond should never be forgotten.
It's very moving, standing here. It is anyway at the memorial, but with the giants here. I spoke to people yesterday from Australia, from America, a German couple as well, and they were all very struck by the poignancy of this installation. Let's talk to Nicholas Witchell. You recognise Nick, of course, as the former BBC Royal correspondent and an erstwhile presenter of this programme, Nick. That's your
many years ago.
But now working with the Normandy Memorial Trust. What first convinced you that this would be a good idea?
Welcome back to you, and thank you to you and to BBC Breakfast for everything that you've done. Dan Barton got in touch with me more than 2 years ago and said that he had this idea to bring the giants to Normandy for the 80th anniversary of the D-Day. And I immediately said yes. I mean, it is visually so arresting. You look at these figures and they give a sense of real scale. What do 1,475 lives look like? You can look at the names up on the D-Day wall there, you can read them, you can see their young ages. But this gives a real sense of scale, and they stretch off into the distance. And as you've said and as you've found, people are coming here and they are standing up there and they are just taken away. They are transported. They look out over there, and we're seeing it now shortly after dawn. It's 7:30 in the morning here. Roughly the time when they were landing on Gold Beach down there. And to see all these figures, Army, Navy, Air Force, gives you this real sense of scale of what 1,475 lives, individuals, look like. And that, as you say, was just on D-Day itself.
It adds an extra level of poignancy, it seems to me.
It does. I think, a combination of seeing the names up on the wall there and the figures, the silhouettes in what we call the wildflower meadow here, and the wildflowers will grow up, and I think that will even add further to the poignancy of it. And I think, yes, it just brings it home. What was the scale of the loss of life, of the sacrifice? And it was just on the first day, the first day of this Normandy campaign, which went on until the end of August. 22,442 names on our memorial.
It's extraordinary. And you've got the Education Centre opening, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're building furiously. This is Winston Churchill Centre for Education, and it was so important to all the veterans, to Harry Billings, you remember, to George Batts and Joe Catini and the others. It is to ensure that the younger generations understand, not just remember, but understand what happened and why it matters today. So we are building the Winston Churchill Education Centre. It will be opened on the 6th of June by whoever is the British senior VIP. We hope We hope it will be the king, not confirmed yet, but that, of course, is just so important that this education purpose is continued.
Brilliant. Nick, thanks so much indeed. Great to see you here this morning. And as Nick was saying, there will be ceremonies here on June the 6th, of course, the 80th anniversary of D-Day. When you read the names, when you think about the sacrifices, the type of people that we hear during the Battle for Normandy, it's the ages that really strike you. The teenagers, the people in their young 20s. Very few survivors now, of course, and they're well into their 90s, some beyond 100 years old, still going, still determined to come back. Such a privilege to meet them and to spend time with them. They were the greatest generation, and these are aptly named as giants. Back to you.
John, thank you very much. Absolutely striking images there. But as you probably realised, one or two problems with the sound there, so apologies for that. But it is such an amazing place, and it was already an amazing place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You go there, it's so striking, and then the imagery around those statues, that installation, it absolutely works. And we'd seen them sort of on their journey, haven't we? You don't think, what's it going to look like? And now we've seen it.